Welcome back to Science, Chapter 2, Lesson 3. What do organelles do? Part 1. Let's take a moment and think about a bicycle. What are the different parts does a bicycle have? What jobs do the different parts perform? How do these different parts work together in order for the bicycle as a whole to function? Could a bicycle work well if one part, such as the seat or the handles or the brakes or one wheel or both wheels or the pedal, whatever it could be, if one of those parts was missing? While a bike is large and made up of parts that you can easily see, cells are made up of parts that you cannot see without using a microscope. Each organelle of the cell has a specific job to do, just like a bicycle. Why do you think the nucleus is often the largest and most visible object inside of a cell? The nucleus controls all the activities and hereditary functions from the cell, just like your brain does for you. The nucleus is surrounded by a nuclear membrane that contains thousands of tiny holes or pores which allow material to move back and forth between the nucleus and the cytoplasm. The nucleus sends instructions in the form of special chemical messengers which are delivered to the organelles. What might happen if these instructions contained a mistake? The nucleus contains the instructions for the organelles to carry out life functions. How do you think the cell nucleus communicates with the rest of the cells? Well, molecules pass between the nucleus and the cytoplasm through tiny pores in the nuclear membrane. The chromatin is a mass of genetic material found in the nucleus. It is composed of DNA. It contains all the information that directs all the functions of the cell. When the cell is ready to divide, the chromatin condenses and forms the chromosomes. So in this image, you can see the nucleus, that big ball kind of looks similar, reminds me of yarn. And if you see if you're thinking of a ball of yarn, the string that's going out from the nucleus, that is the chromatin. That whole thing is the nucleus inside of the cell. The nucleus is a small structure inside, the nucleus is a small structure inside the nucleus. Ribosomes are made there. A cell can have up to 4 nuclei. The number for each species is always the same, so humans are going to have the same number in their nucleus. Cats are going to have the same number. Plants are going to have the same number. Whatever the species is, it's always going to have the same number of nuclei.
Welcome to Moo Math and Science. In this video, I'd like to look at the nucleus. I've always heard that the nucleus is the brain of the cell. But why is it the brain? And what are the major parts of the nucleus? The nucleus is a large organelle. In fact, you can see the nucleus with a compound microscope. Here it is inside a cheek cell. I'd like to look at 4 main components of the nucleus. First, the nuclear membrane, nuclear pores, nucleoplasm, and the nucleolus. The nucleus is surrounded by a nuclear membrane, and this is very similar to the cell membrane, and it is also composed of 2 layers. It protects and houses the other parts of the nucleus. You can also find ribosomes on the outside of the nuclear membrane. Up next are the nuclear pores. These are openings found on the nuclear membrane. They allow items to move in and out of the nucleus. An example would be messenger RNA.
You are heading through a nuclear pore and into the plant cell nucleus. The nucleus is home to a plant's DNA. Like meters and meters of cell blueprints, the DNA make the plant what it is.
Nucleoplasm is a gel-like or watery material found inside the nuclear membrane. You will find the DNA suspended. in the nucleoplasm. The nucleolus is almost like a nucleus inside the nucleus. It has a very high concentration of DNA. It is also the site of transcription, which is the starting point of protein synthesis. This is how the nucleus controls the cell. It has all the information on how to make the stuff like proteins for the cell. These proteins are used for many purposes inside the cell. Ribosomes are also made at the nucleolus. All eukaryotic cells have a nucleus, and bacteria and other prokaryotic cells do not have a nucleus. Hope that helps. Thanks for watching, and Moo Moo Math up.
Inside eukaryotic cells, there is a variety of tiny organelles. The work of the organelles makes it possible for the cells to 1. Release energy from food, 2. Get rid of waste, and finally to do many other things that allow the cells to live and to repair the body. Proteins make up most of the cell. Ribosomes are small organelles that make the proteins. Since proteins are necessary for life, there are more ribosomes than any other organelle. The free-floating ribosomes make the protein for the cell. Ribosomes attached to the ER make the proteins that move out of the cell. So when the ribosomes are in the cell and they're not connected to anything else, then they're making proteins for that one cell. They're making proteins for itself. However, when they're connected to the ER, another organelle, then they're making proteins that go outside the cell to the rest of the body.
Welcome to Moo Moo Math and Science. In this video, I'd like to talk about the ribosomes. When you look at pictures of cells, you can see tiny dots on the ER and in the cytoplasm. These dots are ribosomes. But why are they important to the cell? Ribosomes are small protein factories found in cells. They are located in the cytoplasm and on the rough ER. Ribosomes look like small dots on the ER and in the cytoplasm. They are found in plant, animal, and bacterial cells. How does a ribosome make this protein? First, messenger RNA that has been created at the nucleus travels to the ribosome. Transfer RNA travels to the messenger RNA and reads it in triplets called codons. The transfer RNA has amino acid on one end. The transfer RNA reads the messenger RNA, and a string of amino acids are put together in the correct order. Now, why is protein important? Protein is used for many functions in the cell. They are used as building blocks for structure, support. Your skin and tendons are made of proteins. Some proteins help with digestion. Proteins help with muscle contraction and also help carry oxygen around your body. So there we go. These tiny organelles called ribosomes are very important in helping the cell stay alive. Thanks for watching, and Moo Moo Math.
The largest organelle is the endoplasmic rectum, or the ER. The ER is a network of tube-like channels that winds through the cytoplasm. The ER is the cell's transport system for moving materials around the cell. It is connected to the cell membrane. There are two kinds of ER, smooth ER and rough ER. Smooth ER lacks ribosomes, giving it a smoother appearance. It transports the proteins throughout the cell, and it builds and stores lipids, or another word for fats. So the proteins that are made for the cell in the ribosomes, those free-floating ones, those transport the proteins for the cell into the smooth ER, and that smooth ER transports those proteins all throughout the cell. The rough ER contains ribosomes, giving it a rough appearance. It provides a surface where proteins can be built, and it increases the surface area on which the cell processes happen. So remember, this is where the ribosomes are making the proteins that are going outside of the cell.
Welcome to Moo Moo Math and Science. In this video, I would like to talk about the endoplasmic reticulum, also called the ER. The ER is found in both plants and animals, but not in bacteria cells. If you take a look at the ER, you will notice that it consists of folded membranes and looks like a transportation system. The ER is located near the nucleus and helps the cell transport important materials throughout the cell. Let's look more closely at the function of the endoplasmic reticulum. First, there are two types of ER, rough and smooth. Rough ER, or RER, is located very close to the nucleus. The rough ER gets its look because the tiny protein factories called ribosomes are embedded in its membranes. The rough ER produces proteins. Some of these proteins will be transported by the ER to the Golgi apparatus. Others will move across the ER to other parts of the cell or will be packaged in small sacks which will pinch off from the ER and travel throughout the cell. Smooth ER looks smooth because it does not have any ribosomes. It has a different job than the rough ER. The smooth ER produces important chemicals called enzymes. Some of these enzymes will pinch off in a vesicle and travel to the Golgi apparatus. The smooth ER also produces lipids, which are important fats used by the cell. The smooth ER will transport these lipids throughout the cell or will package the lipids in sacs called vesicles and release them into the cytoplasm. In summary, the ER is a transportation system used by the cell to create and transport proteins, enzymes, and lipids throughout the cell. Thanks for watching. Moo Math and Science uploads a new.
The Googlio apparatus is an organelle that packages the materials that the ER makes to transport. It's made up of a stack of 3 to 20 slightly curved sac-like membranes that float in the cytoplasm. They receive the proteins produced in the rough ER, inspects the proteins for flaws, then makes any changes that are needed. It then sends them to the smooth ER.
Welcome to Moo Math and Science. In this video, I'd like to talk about the Golgi apparatus. You may have heard the Golgi apparatus is a bit like a post office. It receives proteins, repackages them, then sends them out into the cell, like a post office does. In fact, that's a little bit what the Golgi apparatus does. But first, where is the Golgi apparatus located? It is located by the ER. The side closest to the ER is called the cis Golgi, and the outside is called the trans Golgi. It is found in all eukaryotic cells, so it's found in plant and animal cells. First, the ER repackages proteins and biochemicals into vesicles. It then pinches these vesicles off and sends them to the Golgi apparatus. The Golgi apparatus receives these proteins, lipids, and other chemicals from the rough ER and modifies and packs them into vesicles. These vesicles then pinch off and travel to 3 locations. They may travel to the lysosome and carry digestive enzymes to help the lysosome with digestion. Secondly, some travel outside the cell. They go to the membrane and travel outside the cell, like insulin that will help with the blood sugar level. And finally, some travel to the plasma membrane and provides proteins for repair and replacement. Hope that helps with the Golgi apparatus. Moo Math and Science uploads a new math.
A vacuole is a fluid-filled storage container. Some vacuoles store water, others liquids, or even food particles. Some store waste products until they can be removed from the cell. A membrane keeps the vacuole contents separate from the cytoplasm. So in other words, whatever that vacuole is storing, it's not going to get into the rest of the cell. Vacuoles can be found in both plant and animal cells. These are actually much larger in plant cells. And the reason for this is what we're going to talk about next. In green plants, a large central vacuole provides additional structure and support for the cell beyond that is provided by the cell wall. So one function of a larger vacuole in a plant is to provide additional support. Now these vacuoles fill up or they shrink depending on how much water is available to the cell. Shrinking of the vacuoles is what causes plants to wilt. So when you see a plant that is full, it looks good, the leaves and the stems are standing up straight, you know that those cells of that plant's vacuole are full of water and that plant is healthy. However, if you see a plant that's kind of wilted and dead looking, then that tells you that the vacuoles do not have a lot of water. So that plant is trying to preserve what's left, and if it uses all that it's reserved, it can die.
Welcome to Moo Math and Science. In this video, I'd like to talk about the organelle vacuoles. Vacuoles are organelles that store water and waste, much like a water tower stores water for a city. Vacuoles are storage sacs in plant and animal cells. They are not found in bacterial cells. In addition to storing water, vacuoles also store some waste. Let's take a look at the difference between the vacuole in a plant and animal cell. On the left, you'll notice that the vacuole for the plant cell is very large, and there's one central. The vacuole in animals are much smaller. In animal cells, the vacuole is little more than a large vesicle, which means it's a membrane-bound sac that can be filled up with water or waste material. And there's more than one in an animal cell. In a plant, it is much larger and you have a central vacuole. It is used to support the plant, and in this next video you can see what happens when the vacuole is filled up with water. Vacuoles are not found in bacterial cells, and some single-cell protists have what is called a contractile vacuole, which opens and closes to regulate the amount of water inside the protist. Take a look at a contractile vacuole. In summary, a vacuole is used for storage of water and waste and helps regulate the amount of fluid inside a cell. Thanks for watching.